Hello, my front-end friend. This is probably the most ubiquitous line of CSS that's out there, and if not the most used, it is definitely very high up there if we're looking at the stats, I'm sure. But I think there's actually a pretty strong argument that these days it gets in our way more often than it actually helps, and it's time to remove this from our resets on new projects. And to me, the most obvious example of where it gets in the way is with container and wrapper classes. So here I'm in Figma. You get your design files from wherever you get them, Figma. Maybe these days it's a penpot file. It could be maybe even Adobe Photoshop. Who knows how old school you are, but you have your design. And in this case, it's just a form. Usually there's more content, but it's being held in the middle of the viewport. And you go and take a look at the size. And in this case, we're at 736 pixels. Okay, no problem. So you make sure you have a wrapper or container. And on that wrapper, you come in and you go that this is going to have a width of, we said it was 736 pixels wide, px, right? And well, we don't want it to be we don't want it to be a width. We actually want that to be a max width. So we save that. It's holding it. Then you learn about maybe logical properties. So instead of width, you use inline size, because that makes life easier using logical, because then we can say this is a margin inline of auto, and you don't have to worry about the top and the bottom, and then it's in the middle. But then there's another problem that comes up is when we're at the smaller viewports, we don't actually want the layout to touch the edge of the viewport. So we go and, oh, there's 16 pixel gap there. Okay, no problem. So we come in and we say that there's a padding inline of 16 pixels as well. And now if I go and we enter responsive mode to go and check this out, and it's great because it shrinks down, it grows, everything's working the way we need it to. And it never touches the edge, except now there's actually a problem with this is if we come and take a look at it, and I'm going to go on my wrapper here, and that's at 736 pixels, but then there's some padding on that. And because we have a box sizing, a border box, that means my main is only 704. Because we're going in by 16 pixels on both sides. So we're losing 32 pixels of size. And why does this matter? Maybe someone won't notice, but there's always the eagle-eyed designers out there, or you might have some visual testing that's being done, and there's a discrepancy in the overall size. And this is the easiest way to do it. And you finally realize what it is. And one option you could have is some weird calc that you're going to put on here, which I would not recommend. One way you could fix it is by saying that on this element, the box sizing is actually content box. And we do that. And now, if I go and take a look at that, we're actually at 736. And when I was originally writing the script for this video, this was the point of the video was going to be the point of the video, is there are certain situations where you might want to opt into content box. And this is the primary one. I love using it for this type of thing. But then after I'd already written the rough draft for this, Miriam Suzanne put out an article looking at why you shouldn't inherit the box model, which is another thing that people tend to do. And the more I thought about it and read through that article, the more I thought maybe we just shouldn't declare it as a default at all and just opt into the border box where we actually need it. Maybe you want to opt in certain situations, and this makes you happy because we're so used to the way we work. But the other thing is we have the wrong size. Now and again, it's a very subtle difference. A lot of people aren't going to realize it, but I can go in my reset here, delete this, and I've also fixed the problem. And even though I've taken it off of my entire page, and obviously this is a simplified example because we're just looking at a form, but I still don't have any problems with it in this situation. It didn't break anything. And that's because I haven't had to create a layout using sizes on anything. And most of the layouts that we create these days don't have declared widths that then need to accommodate padding and stuff. Now, in the old days of the web, that was a different thing. We used to have Bootstrap, right? And in Bootstrap, in the old days here, this is the famous example, but this is how we used to make layouts. This is Bootstrap 2. You can look at 1. 1 worked the same way, but wasn't responsive at all. It was all fixed values. But if I come and look at here, what they're doing is they're actually assigning on each one of these spans here. So if I look at the span 3, I can find a width on it. Oh, this is a scaffolding. It's not the fluid system. There's a fluid one where it's not, it's percentages instead. But it's assigning an actual width on that. You can see if I take that width off, it breaks things. And this is all because it was all with float-based layouts. Everything was using floats for the grid system to work. And so you had to have assigned sizes, and there was padding and negative stuff going on, but we had to do this to create our layouts in the old days. These days, we use Flexbox and we use Grid for so much stuff that we're often not setting specific sizes, or we're doing it on the grid cells and not on the direct children, or the children are squishy anyway, and right? So like, because they're flex items and they're changing. And so maybe we don't need it at all. Another example that I used when on this form, and it's one of the reasons I picked this as the demo, and that is if I go and let's go find my text area. And on my text area, not that one, there'd be another one. I have a height of 3LH here and the box sizing of content box. And the reason I did this is because I wanted this to be 3 lines high. And I know we could do this in other ways too. We'll talk about that in a second. But let's say I didn't include that. And we come here. And obviously we don't actually need this anymore. I don't have to opt into content box because we already are, because I've deleted it from my reset. But let's say for fun, we were still on the border box of old. My 3 line height now is 3 line height, including the padding I have on here. And I do have padding on here. So if I came in reality, it's actually not quite. Like I already have a scroll bar here. And if I scroll up, it's more like 2 lines because my padding is so big on there. And so then I want this to be content box. So I have to, once again, opt into it, content box. And then we opt in that way. Now I do realize I could get rid of all of that and we could come over into my index and I could go find my my text area here. And I could say that the rows is equal to 3. And then we're hard coding it in this way. And then I have exactly 3 rows of content. It works. I don't particularly like doing this. I like controlling all of my layout in my CSS. And it also means if I had multiple text areas, they're all being controlled in one area. So for me, I sort of prefer that approach than using rows. And it, as I said, then I can, line height is 5LH. And if you don't know the LH, it's line height units. So now we have 5 lines. Did I make a mistake? Oh, I did line height because I was thinking of line height. We want a height and I'm doing height. We should be saying block size because I was talking about logical properties before of 5LH. Even though in this case, maybe because it's a line height unit, no, that would still make sense, I think. But yeah, there we go. Now we have 5 lines of text without any issues. And we're not magic numbering or having to do anything like that. It just works and it's pretty fantastic. Now, there are going to be exceptions to this rule. For example, I'm going to scroll all the way down because I have a toast notification that I just did a display none on here. We're going to turn that off and my toast shows up there. And if I come and take a look at the Figma design of this, on this one, if we go find there it is, and I go and look at it, you might come in here and go in your design software and click on it and go, okay, this is 450 pixels wide. And in this case, because we're setting a size on it, so let's go and do that because obviously right now it's way too big. So I already have the margin inline of auto. So I'm just going to say that the inline size is 480 pixels. And it wasn't 80, it was 450 pixels. We're going to fix that and it gets us to the size that I saw in the layout. And now the size of this is actually wrong because I'm saying that it's this size plus my padding. So once again, visual testing, someone's looking, they're going, it's the wrong size compared to what you had. Now I have to opt into a box sizing of border box on this element. And then now it actually matches the design that we had because it's 450, including the padding. But for me, in one situation or another, we're actually opting in here. So you just have to choose which one do I want to be opting in. It feels much more normal to be opting into a content box than a border box, because if you're like a lot of people, you're used to working with border box as the default. But if you do a few projects where it's not, you'll get more, you'll get used to doing it the other way around. And I'll also even say in a situation like this is probably wrong. I don't want to actually be setting that, and I probably don't need this. And the reason for that is, if we go back to Figma, you might have already caught this, but over here where they're saying the width is 450, but more importantly, it's because it's actually set to hug. And the hug contents here is important. It's not a fixed width. So that means it's actually matching the width of the text that's inside of it. And in CSS, we can do that. We can come with a inline size, and this could be width as well, of fit content. And if I do that, and we go back here to take a look, well, now it's matching the width of my content. Fantastic, right? And just to turn that off for fun, so you can see the change happen. And then we go back on, and it's fitting it. And if I come in with a bit more text, or go find my toast that I think I had at the top, let's make this a bit longer. And there we go. It's longer or shorter depending on the content that's in there. And I think that's probably how it would work if it was an actual toast. And because it's my fit content will not cause any overflows. It will wrap if there's not enough room. So it's exactly what we want. And I, once again, don't have to worry about the box sizing of it because I'm making something that's adaptive and responsive to where it's going, and I'm not defining a width anymore. And I think you might be surprised with how infrequently you're actually setting sizes on things. And so yeah, I'm very curious if you're going to start a new project. And I should highlight that. Do not go into an old project and delete that from the reset if you have the box sizing reset in there, just because that could potentially impact things on an existing project that you might not notice right away. But if you're starting a new project, I am very curious if you would think about starting one without that in your reset, or if you prefer the idea of switching over to content box every now and then. And so yeah, leave a comment down below. And last thing I'm going to say, there's another link down below that you might be interested in if you enjoyed this video. It's if you're liked learning more a bit about how CSS works and the idea of maybe fighting with your styles a little bit less and finding ways to work with it more, and things like maybe you haven't seen logical properties or you haven't seen fit content and these different things that can help us work more with the browser instead of fighting against it. And if that's the case, you might be interested in my course CSS Demystified, which is learning more about how CSS works under the hood so we can work with it instead of fighting against it, and we can start writing our CSS with confidence. So that is also linked down below. And with that, I would like to thank my enabler of awesome, Johnny, as well as all my other patrons and channel members for their monthly support. And of course, until next time, don't forget to make your corner of the internet just a little bit more awesome.